friends, it's Teresa and welcome back to my channel. Today's video is going to be me discussing the books I read in February, and yes, I did hit a minor slump. Second month out of the year, Teresa. Going well, but let's just kind of get into it. So I'm going to start off with a book that did not get me into a slump, but that is a nonfiction book that I read, which is Me and White Supremacy by Layla F. Saad. Layla F. Saad is a Muslim African-American woman who on Instagram did a 28-day journaling challenge where white people can face their white privilege and how it reflects into their hidden white supremacy or like internalized white supremacy and how they can combat that. I ended up giving this a 4 out of 5 stars. Now, I really enjoyed everything that she had said. I liked how she did break it up into a bit more like a manageable kind of like workload, just because as everyone who has been going through trying to become a better ally for the Black community, it is a little difficult process to unpack. So she did break it up into a bit more manageable chunks for you to understand through, and did emphasize time and time again that this is a process. You don't just read one book and do one journal challenge and you're done. It's a continuous process, and she has mentioned that over and over again, and how you can use the book multiple times over your anti-racist learning progress. The reason why I gave this a 4 out of 5 is purely for my own stupidity. Like I said, I really enjoyed this book, but I didn't get the full scope of the intentions behind it, primarily because I borrowed this from my library and my library has a 14-day hold, and I didn't realize they were journal prompts until like a little bit in. And by then I was just kind of interested in what she had to say more so than the practices, and since it is 28 days, people were in line to read the book. I only had the library book for 14 days. I could not participate in the full 28-day challenge, and I felt that cutting my experience of it halfway through, you know, it didn't seem like I would be learning the most out of it. So I did read it, I did learn a lot from it, kind of just reiterations of things I have read in the past, as well as other ways that I can become more anti-racist myself. It was a very interesting read, and I think that if you are trying to unpack your internalized white privilege and your internalized white supremacy a bit more, this would be a great place to start, where you can take it piece by piece by piece, rather than kind of like how like social media has it, where you're like unpacking everything in one huge go, which is very overwhelming, I'm sure. So if you're looking for something that'll help you unpack everything piece by piece and like let you understand and like look at everything more intrinsically, highly recommend. But like I said, I was not the audience for this, and I could not partake in everything, so I did have to lower it. Moving on to the book that did put me in a slump, and which made reading through my TBR that much more difficult, that is Into the Water by Paula Hawkins. I DNF'd this at like 60-something%, and I should have DNF'd it a lot earlier. So when the body of a single mother is found in the river, disposed similarly to another young teenage girl who is not related, but like who has ties to said mother, this young woman returns back to her hometown that she is dreading and tries to figure out exactly what happened to her sister, while also handling with the niece that she has never really met. Like I said, I DNF'd it. There are a lot of trigger warnings. Death, mentions a rape, fat phobia. Let me see if I can find my bullet journal on this. So, the trigger warnings are fat phobia, mentions of suicide, student-teacher relationship, that's always great, rape, mentions of rape, and then toxic family. Now, I DNF'd this for a multitude of reasons. One, there were so many point of views, an incessant amount of point of views, and I understood what the author was trying to do with that kind of incessant amount, but it is a mystery novel, so when you're going to give me a lot of point of views to kind of explain the whole, like, your memory isn't the most like trustworthy, it's a lot, and I don't get attached to characters, and I'm just sitting here like, who am I going to get next? What's going to happen? I don't know. Secondly, I love me a good thriller, I love me a good mystery, but I'm I'm very annoyed at kind of the blatant fat phobia that's often used as a trope in this specific genre. Like, I understand it's a very like well-known trope in this genre and it's whatever, but I'm also just like, you know, it is now 2021. I forgot when this book came out. I don't get why you can't just switch up the tropes and just not have fat phobic ideas and characters who suffer from being told they're consistently fat and ugly and like all these things. I'm just I'm also not a fan of when you use mental illness as a way to make the main character less, what's the word I'm looking for? Less trustworthy. It's cheap writing. You can find other ways to make a character less trustworthy or unreliable without having to dive into mental illnesses that are never actually touched upon until the end. Not even until the end, and like sometimes are never even touched upon. So like I read to like 69% of this book. I gave it all my all, but I cannot do it anymore. And if y'all have any suggestions for mystery thrillers that are not heavy in fatphobic kind of shit, can better represent mental health than other mystery thriller books, leave them down below, because this was a ride and it was not a good one. The next book that I read in the month of February is actually part of my goals to continue series and finish them within 2021, so I no longer have to worry about them. That book is Escaping from Houdini by Kerri Maniscalco. This is the third book in the Stalking Jack the Ripper series, and that is a YA high fantasy. It's a YA historical mystery novel. There we go. Following young Audrey Rose, who is interested in like the... I just remembered what that word was, and it's gone again. It's the snip of the unalive people. And then... Man... I'm just gonna try to find Kate's comment on my YouTube video. She's interested in autopsy and kind of the... like an ME, medical examiner, in a world where people don't want her to be that because she's a woman. It's Victorian era London. Blah, blah, blah. But now she and her kind of beau, Thomas Cresswell, are traveling to America after the events of the second book and find themselves in yet another mystery. Now, trigger warnings, clearly death and murder and violence, so, you know, kind of cheating. This is my least favorite book out of the entire quartet, and I haven't even finished the series yet. I gave this a 4 to 5 stars. I think in terms of creating a very like focused kind of world, Kerri Maniscalco did really well. They are stuck on a literal cruise to America and have nowhere to run. They don't have any place to hide because they don't know who the killer is. She managed to create this wonderful circus and these marvelous characters with their own little backstories and like little bits that brought more to the story. I liked that at the end Audrey Rose and Thomas were still together. What I did not like was the unnecessary love triangle. Like, it made no sense to introduce a love triangle in the third book of the series when they're basically married. They're not even engaged. They just skipped that fact. They're just basically married. It made absolutely no sense to introduce it. It was not developed very well in my opinion. And it was there to make Thomas seem more human, where I feel like it could do that in a numerous amount of ways, where it doesn't involve Audrey Rose contemplating for a page if she wants to be with Thomas or not, before deciding, oh no, it's Thomas because of one little scenario that I can't spoil. But like, it made no sense. I don't get it. And like, if that was the only point, when everyone and their mother knew who she was gonna choose, why? I like a good love triangle when you can look at all avenues of each love triangle, and this one gave me like, not even an avenue, it was like, it wasn't even a street, it wasn't even a courtyard, it was just like, it was like half a sidewalk. So it 4 out of 5, it's a good book, nice development, nice storytelling. Just don't understand the triangle. Like, I don't know if her editor was like, you know, this relationship just, for a young adult novel, just seems too solid. We gotta add some unnecessary angst, or what. But like, what was this? What was this? Because I don't know. I don't know what this was. And the last book that I read in the month of February was actually one I finished last night at 11:34 in the PM. And that is Chain of Gold by Cassandra Clare. This was a reread for me. This is the first in the Last Hours, or trilogy, where we follow young Cordelia Carstairs as she comes to live in London with her family to escape a potential scandal with her father. There, she runs into some old childhood friends of hers, and chaos ensues. I don't know how I managed to read like an almost 600-page book in the span of a week when I was annotating. Primarily because when I annotate books, it takes me so long because I have to think about it. And then also, like, one thing that I dislike about annotating is like I tend to have a disproportionate amount of tabs after, and then I have to buy more tabs, and then I have an enormous amount of tabs for one color and then like 2 things for the other. And sometimes there are like gaps when you annotate because like there aren't very many interesting quotes at this apparent chunk of the book. But I ended up giving this a 4 to 5 stars. You can definitely see Cassie's writing change. It's one of my favorite things about her writing is that you can see it change so gradually from her very first book to this current book, and you can also see it change from the first chapter to the last chapter. I love the characters. We all know this. I love my Merry Thieves. I love Anna Lightwood. I love Cordelia. I just love all of them except for Grace. Grace can go die in a hole, and I will dig the hole deeper. I don't know how. I'll come up from the bottom and just go, but I will do it, which is good because then like she did it well. If everyone in the world manages to hate Grace with such a passion. The one thing that dinged me from my original 5 stars when I first read this book to a 4 is that the world building. Now, it made sense for her to write a prequel from TMI to TID, then back to TMI, and then TDA. However, at this point we have 2 series, 9 books worth of present and future content, and then 3 books worth of past content from the Infernal Devices. When you have to go back from 2016 back to like what, 19 something, I want to say, it's a little difficult because by then the world building is pretty much solid. Like you can add a lot of things in the future and imply that no one knew about this, but it's very difficult for you to go back into the past and then say that no one knew about this and then somehow go back into the future and say that everyone knew about this thing that these people did not know. Which I feel like is the one thing that was missing when you translate this book onto the future books, is that knowledge from what she explained and what she introduced in this book is not present in the future books. Which again is difficult to do, considering how long ago The Mortal Instruments was written. However, feels like there's a bit of a disconnect when you go down the line of the books. That there's knowledge that by now in 2021 or whatever year the Last Powers are going to come out, that they do not have from this and was not hinted at in the Dark Artifices, which came out like directly before this one. So that was my only thing. However, I did enjoy it. I love my Shadowhunters. I will continue to be doing trash, and I definitely do need to reorganize my shelves to fit Chain of Gold and Chain of Thorns in this scenario. But that's a problem for future trees. Oh, trigger warnings for Chain of Gold. Death, violence, think murder? No, just death and violence. Yeah. But that is it for the books that I read in February. It's not as much because I had 2 other books I wanted to finish. But guess what did not happen? That. And I blame it purely for Into the Water because I don't know what's going on there. But if you guys read any of these books and you had the same thoughts as me or different thoughts as me, leave them in the comments below and we can discuss and have fun. But until next time, hit like, subscribe, comment. I will leave any reviews that I have for these books down below if I have them written yet. But until next time, all my socials will be down below in the description as well. And I'll see you guys in my next video. Bye!